talk a lot about motivation, about being inspired, about getting in the right mindset before we take action. And that's fine, that's helpful. But sometimes waiting for motivation is the exact reason we stay stuck. Sometimes you don't need to feel ready. You don't need to feel excited. You don't need to be in the perfect state of mind. You just need to force yourself to get it done. Because discipline doesn't ask how you feel, it asks what you value. There's a critical misunderstanding that keeps so many people from making progress. It's the belief that you must first feel driven in order to act driven, but it's actually the other way around. Action leads emotion. Doing the hard thing, even when you don't want to, is what builds the muscle of discipline. And discipline is what builds everything else. You don't rise to the level of your inspiration. You rise or fall to the level of your habits. And habits are not formed in moments of clarity. They're formed in moments of resistance. When your body is tired, but you show up anyway. When your mind says not today, and you say yes today. When the easier path calls, and you choose the one aligned with your values instead. That's where transformation happens. There's something powerful about choosing the difficult thing on purpose. Not because it's glamorous, not because someone's watching, but because you made a promise to yourself, and keeping that promise matters more than your temporary discomfort. That's how confidence is built. That's how trust in yourself grows, not by talking about goals, but by doing the boring, the inconvenient, the uncomfortable things that those goals require. And no, it won't feel good at first. It may feel unnatural, awkward, clunky, like forcing yourself out of bed before sunrise when your body is begging to stay warm under the covers. Like sitting down to write when your brain feels blank. Like having that hard conversation when silence would be easier. But what if forcing yourself to move forward is the very thing that wakes you up? What if it's not about waiting to be ready, but realizing that readiness is something you build by going? There's a lie that says if it doesn't flow, it's not meant to be. That's nonsense. Some of the most meaningful things you'll ever do in life won't flow. They'll demand force, they'll require grit, they'll stretch you, frustrate you, challenge every excuse you've believed about yourself, and those are the things that change you. Force isn't about violence. It's not about pressure or punishment. It's about making a decision in advance, then sticking to it in the moment, no matter how you feel. It's about interrupting the loop of hesitation. It's standing at the fork in the road and choosing the path of growth over the path of ease. It's not aggressive, it's intentional. Think about it this way. If you only ever do what's easy, your life will be hard. But if you regularly do what's hard, your life gets easier. Because you become stronger, you become more capable. You prove to yourself that discomfort won't break you. And that proof is powerful. It's not motivation, it's momentum. It's discipline compounding. And once that starts, it becomes harder to not follow through. That's the goal. And no, this isn't about hustle for the sake of hustle. It's not about working yourself into the ground to prove something. It's about ownership. Owning your choices, owning your energy, owning the fact that your goals don't care how you feel in the moment. They care what you do with the moment. There are people with less talent than you who are living the life you want. Not because they're lucky, not because they had it easier, but because they got up when it was hard. They worked when they didn't feel like it. They forced themselves through the resistance while others waited for perfect conditions. The truth is, there will never be a perfect time. There will never be a flawless plan. The only thing that separates those who make it from those who don't is one small but powerful decision. I will not negotiate with excuses. And forcing yourself isn't just about productivity. It's about identity. Every time you do the thing you said you'd do, even when it's hard, you're casting a vote for the person you want to become. You're training your mind to trust your leadership. You're saying, I can count on me. That is the most powerful internal shift you can make. Not relying on others to push you, not waiting for external reward, but becoming someone who follows through. Because it's who you are. It starts small. Set one commitment. Keep it. Then another. Stack them. Keep promises to yourself the same way you'd keep a promise to someone you respect deeply. Because the truth is, if you don't respect your own word, no amount of external validation will fill that gap. Don't wait for inspiration to strike. Strike first. Move first. Start the thing. Take the step. Even a bad first draft is better than no draft. Even 5 minutes of focused work is better than none. Even one workout when you didn't want to go is a win. Not because the result is perfect, but because you showed up. You showed yourself that your feelings don't dictate your future. Your discipline does. So stop asking, do I feel like it? And start asking, what's the next right move? Stop negotiating with comfort and start prioritizing progress. Stop looking for hacks and start building habits. Show up messy. Show up tired. Show up imperfect. But show up. Again and again. Because forcing yourself doesn't make you weak. It makes you someone who finishes what they start. We've been sold an idea that in order to succeed, we have to feel good first. That to start something worthwhile, we must be in the right mindset, be motivated, feel aligned, be inspired. But that idea is not just unhelpful, it's dangerous. It keeps people stuck. It convinces us that discomfort is a red flag, when in fact, discomfort is often the best sign that we're exactly where we should be. Discipline isn't built in comfort. Discipline is built in resistance. Discipline is built by doing what's necessary, not what feels comfortable. Every day we are faced with choices that ask us to choose between what we want now and what we want most. And most of those moments don't come with trumpets or applause. They come quietly. It's the alarm going off in the morning when you want to sleep. It's the email you know you should write but don't feel like sending. It's the project you've been putting off because you're waiting for the perfect window of time. That window never comes. What comes instead are opportunities to lead yourself. And leading yourself doesn't start when everything feels good. It starts when everything feels inconvenient. Discipline is the art of doing it anyway. Not in a harsh, push through everything and burn out kind of way, but in the honest, intentional choice to act in alignment with your values rather than your feelings. Because feelings are temporary. They change with sleep, with hunger, with stress. But values are stable. They are the reason you started in the first place. And discipline is what keeps you rooted in those reasons when your feelings try to distract you from them. Comfort feels nice. It's warm. It's familiar. But it doesn't demand anything from you. It doesn't stretch you. It doesn't ask you to grow. Comfort keeps you in the same patterns, the same outcomes, the same excuses. Discipline invites you into something higher. It says, I know this is hard, but you are capable. It says you don't have to like this moment, you just have to own it. It says this task might be uncomfortable, but it's part of building the life you actually want. Doing what's necessary means understanding that most people quit not because they can't do it, but because it doesn't feel good to do it consistently. They look at discipline as punishment. It's not. Discipline is the practice of choosing your future over your feelings. It's the ability to do what needs to be done, especially when you don't want to. Not just once, but over and over. That's where real results come from. Not the one big breakthrough, but the 100 small choices that no one sees. Waking up early, showing up prepared, finishing what you started. Choosing focus over distraction. Saying no when you'd rather say yes. Saying yes when fear tells you to run. These aren't dramatic acts, but they are defining ones. When you build discipline, you build a track record with yourself. You start to trust your own word. You start to believe that when you set a goal, you'll follow through. And that belief becomes fuel. It becomes the foundation that makes future decisions easier. Because you've proven to yourself that you don't rely on comfort to take action. You rely on your character. There's nothing flashy about discipline. It's not something people applaud in the moment. Most of the time, no one's watching. But the results are obvious over time. The person who forces themselves to do the uncomfortable thing over and over is the person who outlasts, outperforms, outgrows the limitations others never challenge. And that's not because they're better, it's because they were consistent. Doing what's necessary also means being honest with yourself. Not sugarcoating your excuses. Not romanticizing your laziness. It means recognizing when your comfort is costing you something. It's the willingness to say, this might not be urgent, but it's important. It's choosing to respond to that importance, not with talk, but with action. Discipline doesn't argue. It doesn't debate. It moves. Most people overestimate how much motivation they need and underestimate how powerful small, disciplined steps can be. You don't need to change everything. You need to start. You need to do the uncomfortable rep. You need to get through 5 minutes of resistance. You need to start the work even when your brain tells you to wait. Because every time you act despite discomfort, you train your mind that it doesn't control you, you control it. And here's the truth. The people you admire, the ones who seem disciplined, focused, reliable, they don't love discomfort. They don't always feel like doing the work. But they've learned something crucial. That discipline is a decision, and that decision is made dozens of times each day in tiny ways. The decision to shut off Netflix and sleep. The decision to not check your phone first thing in the morning. The decision to write one more paragraph, make one more call, follow through on one more task. Over time, those decisions build a foundation that comfort never could. Even the most talented people lose when they rely only on how they feel, because feelings don't scale. Feelings don't build. Feelings don't finish books, start businesses, or lead families. Discipline does. And discipline isn't about being rigid or robotic. It's about being aligned. Aligned with your purpose, aligned with your identity, aligned with your future self. We spend so much time planning, dreaming, and strategizing, and all of that is good. But it only matters if it translates into disciplined action. At some point, you have to stop thinking and start doing. Not because the conditions are perfect, but because you're the kind of person who shows up no matter the conditions. When you practice doing what's necessary instead of what's comfortable, something shifts. You stop avoiding challenges, you look for them. You stop needing motivation, you build momentum. You stop fearing failure, you learn from it. And you stop waiting for discipline to show up. You become the kind of person who carries it with you wherever you go. Most people misunderstand the relationship between action and emotion. We've grown up in a culture that tells us to follow our feelings, to wait until we're in the zone, to be inspired before we start. But the truth is, emotion follows motion. Action leads emotion. You don't feel motivated and then act, you act. And the motivation often shows up afterward. We confuse the sequence, and that confusion costs us time, consistency, and results. Waiting to feel ready is the most common and convincing form of procrastination because it sounds reasonable. It sounds patient. It sounds like self-care. But in reality, it's a delay tactic dressed up as wisdom. The problem is that feelings are unreliable. They change with the weather, with how much sleep you got, with the last conversation you had, with what you ate for lunch. They're fickle. They're human. They're part of the experience, but they should never be in charge. Because if you let your emotions decide when and how you work, you'll never do the deep, meaningful, hard things long enough to see real progress. The job of leadership, especially self-leadership, is to act in service of your values, not your feelings. There's a moment before every difficult task where you hesitate. Your brain comes up with a list of reasons not to move. It's too early. You're too tired. You need more information. You're not ready. That moment is the fork in the road. And what you do in that moment decides who you're becoming. The people who succeed are not the ones who feel amazing all the time. They're the ones who move through resistance, who act in the absence of motivation, who understand that small steps create energy, and energy creates momentum, and momentum builds belief. It's easy to romanticize motivation. We see the highlight reels on social media. People getting up at 5 a.m., running marathons, launching projects, making it look easy. What we don't see is what it took to get there. The thousands of days where they didn't feel like it. The mornings they didn't want to wake up. The fear they had to work through. The self-doubt they didn't listen to. They didn't wait for permission. They didn't wait to feel amazing. They moved, they acted, and through that action, they built emotional stamina. There is power in beginning before you're ready, in starting even when you're unsure. It flips the entire narrative, because once you start, the brain adapts. It catches up. You begin to feel different because you're doing something different. You create the emotion through motion. This is not just theory, it's neuroscience. Your actions influence your mental state, your posture, your breathing, your pace, your focus. All of these are changed when you engage your body and mind in motion. Even something as simple as walking while thinking can create clarity where there was fog. This is why it's dangerous to believe you need to feel confident before you begin. Confidence is not a prerequisite. It's a byproduct. It comes after the reps, after the showing up, after the small wins that accumulate over time. People who seem confident are often just people who've acted through discomfort more times than you. They've trained the muscle of forward motion. They've proven to themselves again and again that they can move even when it's hard. That's the only real source of confidence. Self-trust built through repeated follow-through. When you stop expecting to feel great before doing great work, you set yourself free. Free from the trap of waiting. Free from the pressure to be in the perfect mental state. Free from the illusion that productivity should feel exciting all the time. Some days it will, but most days it won't. And that's okay. The work doesn't need your feelings to begin. It needs your presence, your effort, your attention. And those things are choices, not moods. One of the most effective ways to break the cycle of procrastination is to shrink the task. Don't commit to doing everything. Commit to doing something. Just 5 minutes, just one page, just one small, controlled action. The goal is not to finish, it's to move. Because movement changes the conversation. It activates new thoughts. It disrupts the pattern of delay. You begin to realize that the task wasn't as scary or overwhelming as your mind made it out to be. You just had to start. You had to act first. Discipline is not the absence of resistance, it's the ability to act in the face of it. And when you act, when you take that first step, the resistance begins to lose its grip. You feel different because you did something different. Action doesn't just create results, it creates clarity. It creates momentum. It gives you feedback. You learn more from 5 minutes of action than from an hour of analysis. Because action grounds your thinking in reality, not theory. It moves you from imagination to execution. When people say they're stuck, what they usually mean is they're not moving. They're caught in thought loops, in emotion spirals, in cycles of doubt. And those cycles feed on inaction. They grow stronger the longer you sit still. But the moment you move, even just a little, the cycle begins to break. You reclaim your agency. You take back control. You remind yourself that you are not helpless. You are powerful. And that power lives in your ability to choose action over inertia. No one ever regretted taking the first step toward their goals. But countless people regret waiting. Waiting for motivation. Waiting for the right mood. Waiting for circumstances to feel easier. What they learn too late is that the mood changes after the motion. You can't think your way into a better state. You have to act your way there. That's where transformation happens. Not in the mind alone, but in the choices that move your body, your energy, and your intention forward. You don't have to feel like doing the thing. You just have to do it. And once you do, the feeling will often follow. That's the paradox. The thing you're avoiding is the very thing that creates the emotion you're waiting for. Energy doesn't precede effort, it follows it. Clarity doesn't come before the work, it emerges from it. Progress doesn't come from planning alone, it comes from execution, from movement, from doing the next right thing even when it's uncomfortable, uncertain, or inconvenient. When you flip the sequence, when you lead with action instead of emotion, you take back control of your life. You stop being at the mercy of your mood. You start being led by your mission. And from that place, you can create more than just results. You can create consistency, integrity, identity. You become someone who moves with purpose, even in the absence of motivation. Because you understand that action is not just a task, it's a trigger for everything else that matters. Keeping promises to yourself might sound like a simple concept, but it's one of the most powerful forces in shaping who you become. At its core, it's not about productivity, it's about identity. The way you act, the way you follow through or fail to, creates a loop of trust or mistrust within your own mind. And that loop becomes the foundation of how you see yourself. Every time you say you'll do something and you don't, even if no one else knows, your brain takes note. It registers that your word doesn't mean much. And slowly, silently, it erodes your self-respect. We've all had moments where we commit to a plan, a change, a habit. We get excited. We feel the spark of potential. We promise ourselves we're going to start waking up early, go to the gym, work on the side project, be more present. But the moment that promise meets discomfort or boredom or fear, we retreat. We say, I'll start tomorrow, I'll do it later. Or worse, it doesn't matter. But it does matter, because every broken promise is a tiny crack in the foundation of our identity. And those cracks compound. Eventually we start to believe that we're the kind of person who doesn't follow through. That belief bleeds into everything we do. When you don't keep promises to yourself, you live with a quiet tension, a discomfort that grows every time you lower your own standards. You may not even notice it at first. It shows up as a lack of confidence, a sense of being stuck, a voice in the back of your head that questions your own credibility. The root of that voice isn't laziness or lack of potential. It's a pattern of unreliability with yourself. You've trained your mind not to believe your own words. So even when you say, this time will be different, some part of you doesn't buy it. That part is protecting you from disappointment, from failure, from the pain of trying and falling short again. But that protection comes at the cost of progress. There's a powerful shift that happens when you start keeping your own word consistently. It's not dramatic. It doesn't happen overnight, but it's deeply transformative. The shift is subtle at first. You say you're going to do something, and then you do it. Not because you feel like it, not because it's convenient, but because you said you would. And after doing that a few times, something starts to change. You begin to trust yourself again. You begin to believe that your word has weight, that your intentions have power, that your decisions are not just hopes, they're commitments. Most people are very good at keeping promises to others. If you tell your boss you'll have the report by Friday, you'll stay up late Thursday to make sure it's done. If your friend needs a ride to the airport, you'll rearrange your morning to help them out. But when it comes to ourselves, we negotiate. We let ourselves off the hook. We treat our own priorities as optional. That's not humility, it's self-abandonment. And the danger in it isn't just that things don't get done, it's that your own subconscious starts to view your goals as optional too. Your internal credibility is weakened, and over time that affects your confidence, your discipline, your drive. The foundation of high performance isn't talent or even motivation, it's self-trust. It's the belief that when you say you'll do something, you'll do it. That you can rely on yourself, that your actions will align with your intentions. That kind of self-trust is what allows people to move forward boldly, to take risks, to stretch beyond what's comfortable. It gives them a sense of internal stability. And it's built one promise at a time. This doesn't mean you have to be perfect. Perfection isn't the goal. Integrity is. If you set a goal and life throws something unexpected at you, integrity means you reassess with honesty, not excuses. You reschedule the workout because of a real conflict, not because you're tired and scrolling social media. You adjust the timeline, not abandon the effort. You don't lie to yourself about what matters. That kind of honesty with yourself is just as important as effort, because it teaches your mind that you still respect the standard even if you have to adapt. It's also important to start small. You don't rebuild trust by promising the world and falling short. You rebuild it the same way you would with another person, by showing up consistently in small ways. Start with things that matter but are manageable. Say you're going to read 10 pages a day and do it. Say you'll get up when the alarm goes off and do it. Say you'll finish the task before checking your phone and do it. Every small win is a deposit in the bank of self-trust. And just like a real bank account, those deposits grow. They give you leverage. They give you peace of mind. They create the conditions for you to take bigger bets on yourself. Over time, keeping promises to yourself becomes more than a discipline. It becomes a part of your identity. You stop having to force it, because it feels natural. You're no longer trying to act like a disciplined person. You are one. That shift is powerful because it takes willpower out of the equation. You don't have to constantly wrestle with yourself. The battle between desire and commitment quiets down. And that quiet creates room for focus, for creativity, for deeper work. It also changes how other people experience you. When you trust yourself, others begin to trust you more too. You're no longer scrambling, overcommitting, or apologizing for broken promises. You operate with clarity. You speak with more conviction. You follow through not just when it's easy, but especially when it's hard. That reliability becomes part of your reputation, not because you're trying to impress anyone, but because you've built it from the inside out. There's something incredibly grounding about knowing that your word means something to you, that you can count on yourself, that your future isn't just a vision, it's the result of choices you're actively making. You're no longer at the mercy of distraction, of mood, of external validation. You're rooted in your own discipline. And that root system is what allows you to weather the storms that inevitably come. You'll face setbacks, of course. You'll have off days. But the baseline will remain intact because you've made it a habit to return to your word again and again. You can't outsource this kind of work. No coach, no book, no video can give you the sense of integrity that comes from doing what you said you'd do when no one's watching. That's your job. That's your responsibility. And that's the opportunity in front of you every single day. Every commitment you make to yourself is a mirror reflecting back who you are and who you're becoming. The question is whether you're willing to make that reflection something you respect.